Hey y'all, my name is Taylor. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. So today I'm doing the Christian Romance book tag, and it was created by Oshina, and I was tagged by Katie over at Paperbacks and Ponytails. So thank you, Oshina, for creating this fun tag, and for Katie for tagging me. So if y'all haven't been following me for a while, I would say about 90 to 95% of what I read has some form of romance in it. Either it's the main point of the book or romance is a subplot. It's very rare that I don't read a book without romance. So this is definitely up my alley. So I was super excited that Katie tagged me. So yeah, let's get into the questions. So number one, what book got you into Christian romance? And this is kind of a two-part answer. So first part is through Christy. It's by Catherine Marshall. This is actually the, if you didn't know, it is the inspiration, I guess you could say, for the Christy Awards for Christian fiction books. So this is an excellent Christian classic. Highly recommend if you haven't read it. But I had read it a long time ago as a non-Christian because I love the TV series so much. And I don't think it ever fully clicked with me. I guess I must have just glazed over it because there's definitely faith in this book. There definitely is. But I guess I just kind of skipped over that stuff just as a non-Christian. So when I was saved, I remembered that this was Christian fiction and I wanted to give it a shot. Because at that point in time, I was trying to steer away from the books that I had been reading. So I was trying to find a replacement for it. So I read this, but then I found Oshina's channel through YouTube. Somehow it recommended her channel to me, and I just was amazed at all the options for Christian romance because I thought it was like older books or even Amish books. So had no idea, and Oshina really opened my eyes to all the possibilities, and kudos to her for I think a lot of people have that same experience because I hear a lot of people say that they started off their booktube journey by watching Oshina, and yeah, that's true for me as well. Once I started watching her, I found other booktubers, Christian booktubers. I had been on booktube, like watching secular booktube for a number of years, and when I became a Christian, I was just feeling like this stuff is just not for me anymore. And so I was really excited to find Oshina's channel, and then from then on, the rest is history. Here I am making my own videos. So yeah, the second part of that question is a long-winded answer, sorry, is this book, Wooing Katie McCaffrey by Bethany Turner, and I think I got this as a recommendation from Oshina's channel. Not 100% positive about that, but it is contemporary, so it's a pretty good guess that it was from her. I don't know, but yeah. So this was my first modern book, modern Christian romance. So I really enjoyed it. I think I rated it 4 stars. Can't tell you what it's really about now. But it was fun. I remember thinking it was funny. And yeah, so it still for me had something missing. And later on, we'll get to my other answer, but it still had something missing for me. So that leads me to my second question, the answer to my second question. What Christian romance book changed the way you look at the romance genre? And yes, Waves of Mercy by Lynn Austin was the first Christian romance book that I was just like, this is my jam. I'd read several contemporary romance and I liked them, but I didn't love them. When I read this book, I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It was excellent. It's historical fiction, historical romance, historical fiction, and the faith in this is phenomenal. You need to check it out if you haven't read it and you like historical romance. So yeah, this one I was like introduced to the possibility that I can't just like Christian romance, I could love it. And this is what it could look like. So that was the first book that did that for me. Number 3, what do you love and what do you hate about Christian romance? And I'll start off with what I guess I hate about it. So there are a few tropes that I really don't care for. Miscommunication one is one of them. I just feel like it's a form of lying, even if it's lying by omission. I think there is a chance that you can grow from it, but if the author doesn't address it and have the character grow in their faith and kind of repent from that and all that, and I just, all the time with miscommunication, it's just the same storyline. We know somebody's going to get mad or upset. We're going to turn away from the other character. We're going to have a little boohoo session. And then, then we're going to come back together and everything's going to be hunky-dory. And I can't stand it. It just gets on my nerves to no end. So then, the other thing I'll say, and I wouldn't say I hate it, it's just kind of more slightly irritating that there is such a wide spectrum on what it means to be Christian fiction. And this is just from experience. Like, I had no idea when I first started my journey of reading Christian fiction. I had no idea that there was such a range where, and I've talked about this on my channel before, which inspired my wanting to use a Christian rating system that I got from Lou, and I'll link that video below. But there is Christian fiction labeled that has more like clean fiction, which is fine. Like, I'm fine with that, but I just think of Christian fiction as like on the other end of the spectrum where you have lots of faith, scripture involved, so it's just kind of irritating that there's not like a rating system by publishers where you can kind of know what to expect. Even with some Christian fiction books, it's, as with everything, there's some, what's the word I want to use? Some taintedness. It's being tainted. I don't know what word to use, but there's some topics that are in Christian fiction books that are not Christian and should not be in a Christian marketed book. And stuff like that would be like yoga and the Enneagram. So that's just very disheartening whenever you see that. It's like, really, do we have to put this in here? It is a worldly thing. It's not Christian, and I think you're going to mislead newer Christians, especially, thinking that that's okay. So I could go on and on about it. That's all. I'll stop there. What I love about Christian romance. So for the most part, generally speaking, you don't have to worry as much about content. Most of the time there's no language. I haven't run across anything, particularly off-putting in Christian romance. I've heard some other people mention it, but there's no cussing. There's no explicit sex scenes or anything like that. And that's what I particularly wanted to avoid in my walk with the Lord, because that is something that I had a past of reading smutty, spicy books, and I did not need to go falling back into that. So Christian fiction was, there's some really great books, and you don't have to have the nasty stuff in it. I also love that you get to see fictional people's faith walk and their growth, and how they grow in their faith as an individual, but then also as a couple. And then Christian romance has a broad genre. There's so many subgenres within that. So like historical fiction, fantasy, historical. My daughter's waking up. This will probably have to be continued. Okay, I'm back. So sorry about that. I think I was saying that there's such a broad range in the Christian romance genre. You can have sci-fi, fantasy, historical, contemporary. So there's just many options to choose from. I think that's where I left off. So number 4, what makes a 5-star read in Christian romance for you? So definitely excellent faith, which I kind of already talked about. And then a unique concept or storyline, something that you don't really hear too much about, that hasn't been overdone, which is kind of hard to do, but they do exist. But those two elements especially really make for a phenomenal book. I just want to be, I think even Oshina said at one point, I love how she put it, I want to be inspired by a character. I want to choose the good things out of a character and bring it into my own life and my own faith. And I just, yeah, I want to be like a character if they are a good role model. So yeah. Number 5, a Christian romance. Recommend a Christian romance to a newbie to the genre. And it's kind of hard for me to think about this because I think that's going to depend on your reading taste, like whether you like historical or contemporary or yada yada. So I'm just going to throw one out there, but it may not be the best fit, but it is a good book. So I would say Love and a Little White Lie by Tammy L. Gray, and this was one of the first 5-star contemporary romances for me. It's just something about it knocked out of the park. I'm pretty sure it was the excellent writing and the faith component of it, because it is a salvation story. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I've heard other people who don't like contemporary say that they like that one too. Number 6, recommend a Christian romance book to a romance lover. And again, these may vary because your tastes may vary. So, blanket statement. So, the first one is The Mark of the King by Jocelyn Green. This one is historical romance about a little known part of history. At least I'd never heard of it before, where some French convicts were forced to immigrate and forced to marry in order to populate the Louisiana colony, particularly the New Orleans area. And so this particular book follows a young woman who was falsely accused, and so she's roped into doing this too. And it has her faith journey, and she finds love along the way, and it is very emotional. And it really touched my heart, and I will continue to sing its praises. It is very, very good. The second one I'll mention is The Heart's Choice by Tracy Peterson and Kimberly Woodhouse. This one is also a historical romance, and this one is kind of a quieter romance, if that makes sense. Like it's sweet and it's there, but it's some other parts of the book are kind of equal to the romance. So it's got some mystery in it. There's a tiny bit of suspense into it. But it is about, I forget, I think it's a stenographer. I think that's what it is. A courtroom, the first female courtroom stenographer for a state. I can't remember what state it was, but she is writing the transcript for a court case where this man she believes is innocent. It was accused of murder, and so she's trying to figure out what happened. And this librarian befriends her and helps her investigate. And there is kind of a side mystery. There's a third perspective that you find out who it is as the book goes along. But it's very good. I really enjoyed it. And both of those authors are excellent faith writers. Number 7, recommend a contemporary romance and a historical romance. So for contemporary, the most recent contemporary romance book I read was Better Watch Out by Natalie Walters. So it's a Christmas book, but it's very good. I would recommend it for Christmas time especially, but it is about Franny Frost, and she created a bucket list to do with her boyfriend. She goes to New York to surprise him, but he ends up breaking up with her because she was in denial that their relationship, their long-term relationship, long-distance relationship, was over, and she was just clinging on to something that didn't exist. So she meets this guy, and he works for a defense agency, so he has a client that looks very much like Franny, and their identities get mistaken for each other. So these bad people are trying to get Franny, and so He is accompanying her as she does these bucket list things during Christmas in New York, and love blossoms, and it is a good time. So you don't see many romantic suspense. It's not very suspenseful. It's just like, like she's in danger. He's trying to protect her. So it's not like scary or like super thrillery or anything. It's really sweet. So. And then for a historical romance, I could go on and on. But I will say one that I haven't talked about in a while, which is Man of Mist and Shadow by Michelle Greep. And this is a Dracula-inspired book, and it's very atmospheric. I would say it's a perfect fall, October read. And I don't know, just their chemistry of the two characters. The Dracula inspired character, he was very self-sacrificing, and he wanted to protect her from his reputation. It doesn't have real vampires in it. It's actually the female protagonist is trying to dissuade the villagers of thinking that this guy is a villain, as a vampire. And she's like, that doesn't exist. There's some things about him that lead people to assume he's a vampire. So yeah, it's really, really good. And the female protagonist loves books. She works in a bookshop, so it's good. Number 8, recommend. It says a booktuber, but I couldn't help myself. I want to talk about people. So some booktubers who read and review Christian romance. And, like I said before, Christian romance is a pretty broad spectrum. So I thought I would recommend a few people that they read other stuff too, of course, but they're kind of what I think about whenever I think of somebody who might be good at recommending a certain type of Christian romance. So the first one is Stacy over at Wandering with Stacy. She reads a lot of historical romance. I get a lot of great recommendations from her. I think our reading tastes are fairly similar. If you want biblical fiction, I'm going to recommend Jenna's channel. She is like the queen of biblical fiction. She has a lot of great books that I've never even heard of. And biblical fiction, I read only like 2 so far, but I'm very intrigued in the genre, and I plan on reading more. It's just I'm trying to read the Bible as I go and like match them with that time period that they're supposed to be set in. So I'm getting more into them later, but Jenna definitely has some great recommendations. Celestia has a lot of sci-fi and fantasy ones, and then Rachel over at Rachel Reads, she again, she's kind of got a mixed bag of books too, but she has a lot of contemporary, I think. But if I'm wrong on that, she reads a lot of different stuff. So I just wanted to recommend her as well. So number 9, the swooniest male love interest in a Christian romance book. And I'm sorry, y'all, but I have to mention it again. If you've watched my channel recently, I've been just nonstop talking about this book, but I can't help it because it's just so good. So the book is The Lady in the Lionheart by Joan Bischoff. The character, my favorite male character, is Charlie Lionheart. And that is for a number of different reasons. But the book itself is about Charlie. He has a very sick little girl. He meets Ella. She is a nurse in training, and so Charlie is part of a circus, and he is discriminated against. The hospital thinks he's lesser than. His money is no good, so he gets tossed out when his poor little baby is sick. So Ella, her name is Ella, right? Yes, her name is Ella. She agrees to help nurse this child, and so they meet, and she discovers there is more to Charlie than appearances would lead you to believe. So it's a salvation story. It's just excellent. So Charlie specifically, he is a lion tamer. He is just, he tames 3 lions, and he has a very humane approach to working with them, which I really appreciated. And then he just walks the Christian walk. He this baby that he has is not his biologically, but he adopted her and acts every bit her father as can be. And the things he goes through, his self-sacrificial love. He is also he acts as the pastor for the circus troupe, and he's just a man of the word, and he is a lovely character. Number 10, the last question. So recommend a standalone and a series. So for a standalone, I would say Pearl in the Sand by Tessa Afshar. Tessa Afshar is an excellent writer. This one is a Rahab retelling, and it is much more than just how she helps the two spies get out of Jericho. It is basically her transition into the Israelite culture, and she meets and marries Salmon, and like half the book is them trying to figure out their marriage, and it is very real. Like very realistic of, you know, a new marriage and kind of working through that, especially with someone who has a past like Rahab's. And it was just, you know, we don't know what Rahab's backstory, like what happened with her, other than, you know, the fall of the wall of Jericho and her role in that, and you know, who she married and her lineage after her, but we don't really know too many details. But this story just makes it seem so realistic, like this really could have happened. It's just, it was so good. And then the last one, a series, the Ravenwood Saga series, which starts off with The Mark of the Raven by Morgan L. Bussey. And this is Christian fantasy. It is kind of a light versus dark storyline. But this is about Lady Selene. She has a gift of being able to dream walk, and her family has twisted her ability, or her family's ability to do this for nefarious and evil reasons. And she just kind of raises against it, and she meets Lord Damien, and he just, something is different about him. And so yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. She basically is coming to terms with, maybe I can do something different than what my family has wanted me to, a different way of life. And yeah, the romance is very slow burn in the first book. You see hints of attraction, but something happens at the end of the book that kind of catapults the other two novels. But really, book 2 and 3, you really see the romance, and it is excellent. It's one of the best couples that I've read. So if you like fantasy, highly recommend that. So thank y'all so much for watching. Make sure to check out Oshina's and Katie's video, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye y'all.